Welcome to the Heart of CIRS podcast. I'm your hostess, Melanie Joy Pensack, here to share heartfelt conversations with folks recovering from CIRS and with those special people serving the CIRS community. The podcast was created to help bring awareness to the physical, emotional, and mental experiences of folks navigating CIRS day to day. The world needs to know what CIRS folks go through for deeper empathy and understanding. Through stories and vulnerability, we can help the world understand the winding journey of CIRS recovery. Thank you for being here to open your mind and to open your heart. I'm very much looking forward today to having Ren on the Heart of CIRS podcast. I want to share a little bit about Ren, who's really a lovely human that I've connected with through the online world. Ren is a human living with, learning about, and healing from chronic inflammatory response syndrome. They are also a life and spiritual coach, a poet, dancer, and facilitator of Surrendirt to Community, a healing online space to foster creativity, connection, hope, and play. Ren coordinates CIRS Community Connections publications, which raise awareness about the humanity of CIRS by highlighting individual healing stories and the gifts they have to offer. Ren also facilitates live creative flow work sessions, poetry readings, dance and movement sessions, and offers one-to-one coaching and tools for Surrendirt to Community members. Creativity and connection have been essential cornerstones of Ren's healing journey and are reflected in many aspects of their work. Ren finds great comfort in nature and understands that we are a part of, not separate from, the rest of nature. They are pursuing a sylviotherapy practitioner or forest therapy guide certification to provide one-to-one and group forest therapy sessions. Astrologically speaking, Ren is a Gemini sun, Pisces moon, and Virgo rising with a curious, playful, and honest heart. They love a good playlist, their cats, and spending quality time with those they love. Ren is a lifelong learner working towards earned, secure attachment to self and others. They have done decades of internal family systems and parts work in partnership with personal therapists and coaches, which ripples out to every aspect of their life. So lovely to have such a wonderful person here on the show today. Thanks for being here, Ren.
Thank you, Melanie. And I'm so glad to be here with you. I've seen so much of the work that you've done in the community as well. And just, it's been lovely to connect with you one-to-one. And I'm really, really grateful to be here.
Thank you. I feel like there's so much that we could dive into just from your bio alone. I love the creative and nature work and things that you're bringing into the community, which are so appreciated and needed. But today we get to have a conversation specifically on a topic I've been wanting to cover now for multiple seasons, and it has not been the right time until now. So our conversation today is really going to be around dating with CIRS, dating and CIRS. And I love that we're getting into a real lifestyle topic around this, because I know in my own experience, I'm coming up into this, stepping back into the dating world, and it feels like a completely different thing to begin to explore. So we'll get a little bit more into that, but what I want to start out with for conversation with people is to give them just a little bit of a background about your own CIRS journey. So if there are some things that you can share, the highlight reel, that might help point people to things in their own experience of CIRS and might help validate them, and maybe just pointing out red flags or things that feel key in your journey, we'd love to hear a bit about that.
Great. Thank you, Melanie. Yeah, so the short answer to, how did my CIRS journey start is that it likely started in childhood. I've likely been journeying with CIRS most of my life. And what's interesting is if you had asked me this question even a month ago, I would have told you it was the basement of the 100-year-old house that I lived in Seattle, Washington for 5 years that made me sick. And this was a very recent thing. And that's the story I had for a long time. And since then, as I've been healing and coming into more of a felt sense of safety, I've been tracing it back to my childhood home, which was in fact water damaged. Yeah, and so the basement in Seattle that I lived in, that's where it really escalated. I had insomnia, long bouts of vertigo, my anxiety and depression were at an all-time high, IBD, IBS, all of these things. And it really just came to a head there. And so that's when I, after being tossed around from practitioner to practitioner, as I think many folks can relate to, I finally found my CIRS doctor, my first CIRS doctor in late 2021. And she, right away, she was like, all right, we're going to do your CIRS blood work. We're going to give you your VCS test. And she had it. We had all of my labs done, and I took the VCS test. When I failed that with flying colors, I was out of that basement. I didn't even wait for my lab work to come back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow, I think that is so relatable that there are different experiences maybe we've had as kids that for whatever reason the body has bounced back enough to get us through life in different ways. And then there seems to be a buildup over time and then a more significant exposure or event that sort of tips us over the edge into that point of really having to go through the whole shoemaker protocol or healing process.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so as you're going through this journey, at what point did you decide, I want to begin dating again?
I love this question. And so thinking about dating with CIRS, it really wasn't a conscious decision for me because it was more of a continuation of what I was already doing. I was in a partnered relationship during my diagnosis. And when CIRS entered, and we had since broken up, and then I went into the dating pool. And so when CIRS entered, I kind of just saw it as this like extra spicy little ingredient to my hot and sexy dating soup to add. Quite spicy indeed. And I think so it's also worth mentioning for me and maybe any other folks out there that I am queer. And so I've already had some practice with like going through shifts in myself and my identity and having to incorporate those into the dating scene. So, I was at one point in life, I was like, oh, by the way, I don't just like men, I like women. Or now I also like non-binary and genderqueer folks. And by the way, I'm genderqueer. Or by the way, I'm also non-monogamous. And so again, when CIRS entered the picture, it wasn't necessarily when I started dating with CIRS, it was just how to incorporate this other aspect that I uncovered in my life into my dating profile, which I did.
I love that. So, yeah, different way to view that as just an add-on, an extra flavor. And it's really interesting. I know in my own experience, I've recently started getting back out there and dating in the online realm. And I thought to myself, how do I put this into my profile? Like, how do I want to bring this in? And for me, my experience was so interrelated with a near-death experience that I was trying to figure out how to point to the fact that I've been through some intense times without scaring people off totally. Like, how can that be something that's actually, wow, this person's lived through something versus I don't want to deal with somebody that maybe has been through challenges. And so for me, I put in there that I had survived a serious illness and that it has shifted how I view life and helped me to really ground in my values and what I'm looking for. And it's been really interesting because I think that it's a great way to filter in, filter out some people. And I had actually started texting and talking with somebody a bit more. And then I was able to get into, oh, I have this thing called CIRS and this is how it impacts me. So for me, it was more like I'm going to put it out there that I have a situation or an illness, and then let people take from that if they're interested or not, and then incorporating in more of the details.
Absolutely. I can't remember exactly the language you just used, but I think it was something akin to when you put that language in your profile, it helps weed the folks out that you don't want and bring the folks to you that are going to be a little bit more aware of our situation. That that's what I found when I added it to my profile. At my line that I added, I just said look up SIRS or mold illness before we chat, and I got a variety of responses to that one. Everywhere from completely ignoring it, and then when it would start to come up in conversation, they would be like, "Oh, what's that?" or to, "Oh man, I looked up SIRS and that looks like it's horrible. Like that must be such a horrible time." And maybe a little bit more focus on SIRS and less focus on the rest of my profile and the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Uh, so there was a range of responses that came to that. But yeah, I did also make this decision to add some language that might weed some people out and then pull some other people closer, hopefully the people that I want to date.
Yeah, absolutely. Once I started texting with one particular person, he had wanted to meet up and go out. And I said, before that happens, I said, I want you to listen to the Heart of Source podcast, episode 1. And if you're still interested after listening to that full episode, which is where I go into like the nitty-gritty of my experience, then let's talk after that. This person did, which was great. And so I think that for people out there that might be thinking about, gosh, how do I do this? Or how do I bring this in? Maybe taking from what Ren and I have shared, finding the language that works for you, but maybe putting it out there right away so that you can really bring in these people that are high quality, that are going to respect that part of your experience.
Absolutely. I love that you just pointed him to your podcast first. So it's less labor for you to do, right? Not have to explain everything, and it's
Yes.
already out there.
Yeah. I mean, similarly to how you said, look up mold illness, exactly what you're pointing to, the labor part of it. I don't want the first time that we have a conversation to be entirely focused on like this very difficult life experience. I'd rather it be focused on getting to know each other and maybe what the results of that experience were or what I'm taking from it. And so I think that it just helps to prevent like me having to be a teacher on a first sort of date or interaction.
Yeah, I think that's so important because I I think many of us can sometimes adopt SIRS as the entirety of our identity. And I think sometimes the outer world sees that too. And when that piece can be shown as a part of who we are, and we can just be like, hey, what kind of activities are you into? What's your favorite movie? What are all these other just
Yeah.
life stuff that we talk about with people when we meet them? Like we just get to be the rest of our whole beautiful selves.
Yeah, exactly. And this sort of brings us to the question about limitations that you came up against, maybe considering dating, which it sounds like you were able to jump into that pretty easily. But I'm curious, was there anything like mentally, emotionally, physically, or anything that you considered or that came up when you were wanting to add that into your profile or first start dating with SIRS?
Yeah, definitely. As I said, it was a continuation and it was an adding to my profile. And um, before I considered it, I have a lifelong too much story, right? That comes up. I've done a lot of internal family systems work about this in therapy, and I was like, oh my gosh, who is going to be able to take all these precautions, and who is going to be able to, even down to location, like where we're going to meet up, right? I'm not going to meet someone in a bar or a coffee shop or a restaurant or some other maybe unknown indoor environment. I'm going to want to meet outdoors, right? Like in a park or something. And the too much story emotionally came up for me. And then some of the physical limitations were, like I said, location. So when I was living in the desert, I had to factor heat into it and what seasons I could meet up with people. Summer was a little lonely because temperatures get 100 plus in the summer.
Yeah.
Think of more creative solutions. And then similar with here in New England where I live, when I started dating, actually my current partner that I am dating came to meet me in the lobby of my apartment building because that was a safe enough place. And I had to assess, okay, I'm not going to necessarily bring someone up to my apartment first right away, but we could go into the apartment building. So it's all these things you don't have to really think about when CIRS isn't in the mix. I was also not driving for a period of about 6 months.
Mhm.
So that was another thing that I was like, hey, if you can come to me, then this can work. But right now I can't get to you. And then the other kind of interesting thing, so this is the last piece of my limitations here, is thinking about if we get to the point where someone's coming over and going to spend the night, what do I do there? Because when my friends come over, sometimes I want them to shower or to change their clothes or to do different things. And how am I going to ask this person that I barely know to keep it casual if you want to spend the night? So I actually did that with my current partner, and I was like, listen, I'm not trying to be presumptuous. I'm just trying to be real. If you hope to sleep over at my place, here are some things I ask folks to do. Shower before going to bed. You can either bring your own clothes, I can wash them before bedtime, or you can borrow some of mine.
Mhm.
So these are things that kind of came up for me as I was thinking about not only my dating profile, but like getting further into conversations and the actual meeting up with people.
Yeah. I love that, giving people the opportunity to, it sounds like maybe you text that or message that in advance for them to process and to
Mhm.
think through. Yeah, how was the response to it?
Yeah, the response from my current partner was, I mean, clearly pretty great. They're here and we're celebrating our year anniversary pretty soon. Yeah, my current partner is someone who also has a lot of experience with folks with chronic illness and disability in their life. And so I think that that really informed their response and reaction. And if I think back to other folks too, I got a great friend from one of my dating app experiences, and she was like, yeah, I'm no problem. If I'm out hiking in the desert, I'll come, I'll shower at your place, I'll bring my change of clothes or whatever. So and those were really the only two people I used that with, like getting that far into it. But in terms of, and also in terms of location too, like when I told people about my limitations, I think also there were enough people that were still taking COVID precautions that it didn't seem as out of left field as it might have been before COVID. So I think that's another kind of a thing that helped, that I wasn't just this weird, wild person with CIRS that's got all these things that are out of left field, you know?
That's a good point. One of the hidden blessings of COVID probably is the fact that wearing masks is not as unusual now anymore, and taking precautions, washing hands and things like that. People would sometimes scoff at things like that before, and now it does seem more commonplace. And I love that the response was so great. A good friend and a partner came from all of that. It's wonderful. I know for me, I've been thinking about, well, it's the East Coast and it's January 10th and it's about how many degrees outside, maybe 10 with the windshield. And so what I would typically do, there's several parks that I know of nearby, which I think would be great to meet at. And even like for me, I've been thinking there are coffee shops that are close to this like outdoor area in the town that I live in. I'm very comfortable going into a building if I'm not going to be in there more than 5 or 10 minutes. And so I could easily put on a mask, go in and get a coffee, and then sit outside or something like that. But I think that'll be more for the springtime when it comes again. And right now, my plan is to do phone chats first and then online Zoom, like for even 15 or 20 minutes. And then if it feels like there's enough of a connection beyond that, planning for an outdoor sort of experience in some way, even if it's for a short period of time when it's warm enough. And I'm lucky where I live in Maryland. We have cold weather, but it doesn't stay cold. Like we often get like random days that are like 50 degrees or things here and there. But I like this idea of this process because again, when I'm at the point where I'm 42 years old and I know some things that are non-negotiables and that I want moving forward. And so it feels like a nice way to not have to put in all the effort for an in-person date, which for a person with CIRS requires a lot of effort, right? Am I going to be feeling good enough that day? Like, how tired am I going to be? And just even all of the effort to want to look nice and things like that. I think for me, this idea of being able to even do like a short Zoom interaction first, COVID helped to pave the way that that's not so weird, but then the cold weather on top of it helps. And then I can make the decision from there if I want to move forward with things.
Yeah, Melanie, I love this plan. It's wonderful. And you are reminding me that that's a part I left out of my whole process when I was telling you about it with dating is often when I got to the point where I was actually meeting up with people, it was usually after we did the text message exchange on the app.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them, I don't know, Hinge has audio messaging. I don't know if you use this app, but you could do audio messaging right in the app. And then we would move over to phone. I did with my current partner, we had done text messaging, audio messaging, FaceTime
Mm-hmm.
for 3 weeks before we decided to meet up. And we knew when we look back on it and we talk about it, we're like, we both knew right away, but we took that time. It was also in January in the winter to just wait. And I fortunately have a lobby of my apartment building that I feel
Yeah.
comfortable enough having people come to. I realized that my current partner and we just bypassed the lobby. I think earlier I said they came into the lobby, but I was just like, we met outside and I was like, okay, yeah, this is
Yeah, this works.
this is it. Check.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
no, it's great. I hope that people will take from this and get some ideas on how do you even dip your toe in and what can it look like. For me, it's been interesting because I have not dated since before COVID. And I think you and I share this similarly. If I am correct that we both got sick like right around the time of COVID and or you went into that deep SIRS period, like right then. And so I didn't even know. I'm like, what is it going to be like to even date going into COVID because I was so sick I wasn't dating or doing anything for years, really. I don't think COVID's changed it at all, to be honest. It's the same feel to me. But I'm glad that things are moving forward. And what you pointed to about the whole identity thing, yeah, I feel as people are going through a SIRS recovery, and I know my own experience, like there's a period of time where it's just so survival and you're absolutely focused on yourself, but that does shift and change. And just to give people hope, you're going to hit a point at some point where you're like, okay, SIRS isn't everything and there's more to life. And like, how do I dip the toe back into play and my interests and all of these things that you're helping people do? And it is just been fun to actually like flirt again and just to tap into a different side of myself again. And I think giving people hope that that's going to come around for them too is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. Flirting's fun, Melanie. I forgot about that. And like you said, when we are so deep in our SIRS journey and more kind of fixed in that fight, flight, freeze response, it is just important to access that. And sometimes it takes just one human, even if it doesn't last with that human, like to flirt with someone on a dating app, that's fun and playful.
Yeah.
I'm glad you get to experience that right now.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. So what, when there were blocks that did come up about dating and relationships for you, what methods and modalities have you really used to help work through that? Because I'm sure for people who are listening, as they maybe try to go back out into the dating world, they might come up against this idea of like perfectionism. Now I'm not like the perfect person because I have SIRS or this too much story like you're talking about, or who's going to love me with this sort of illness. What methods and modalities did you use in your own experience to work through things like that?
Yeah. Oh, I love this question.
Mm.
As I've said, and you reflected back, I have a too much story. And I also had an abandonment story that was playing, and I wonder if other folks with SIRS also see this come up where we get really isolated as a result of our illness, and we watch people go away. Some people come closer, some people go away. And I think these larger things were at play when I was trying to enter or incorporate CIRS into my dating experience. And what I found actually that's interesting and not surprising to me is that some of the same healing modalities I've used for CIRS were the things that I help me to get through these blocks in terms of dating and relationships. So I have mentioned internal family systems work and parts work, which is related to this. They're both two therapeutic modalities that I have. My gosh, I've loved my therapist so much. And this is like years and years, like decades upon decades of this work, where I've been learning to reparent my little inner kiddos, to remind them that I've got them no matter what, that they're safe here with me. And that's great for both CIRS, this unexpected thing and this illness, and also for dating, right? It helps to combat any codependent tendencies or any of those kind of things that might come up. So an interesting parallel with that I noticed is right when I got my diagnosis, it was just months after I decided I was going to write a book. I was really ambitious. I was going to write a book called Love Notes to Littles, and it was going to be all about inner child healing. And it was going to be in collaboration with my inner kiddos. Well, we took a little detour there. CIRS entered the picture. And what I'm seeing now, actually, and part of what I think pieces of this were happening throughout my dating time, is I now have created this inner child bundle, and I have these little like affirmation cards for your inner kiddos, and I've got a playlist, an inner kiddo playlist I've created, and all of these sweet little things that combine both creativity, which was really helpful in terms of getting through these blocks, just for reminding myself that I am whole, that it would be fine if I dated someone, and also hear all the really wonderful things about me and my inner children and all of these different parts of me that I can celebrate and dig into. And anyone else who gets to experience this, it's like bonus. And I do want to mention a couple of other things. One of them was actually your mindfulness meditation group, Melanie. I was in a pretty dark night of the soul at this point when I was dating, and I managed to make it to one of this was, I think, back when they were free. I made it to your mindfulness meditation group, and I think I was also just trying to seek out things like that at the time. I leaned heavily into Qigong, so some like really mind-body practices, a lot of somatic movement and therapy. And I also, at the time when I was going through adding CIRS to dating, I went through the Safe and Sound protocol too, which uses filtered music to stimulate the vagus nerve. It helps calm the nervous system and kind of reorient and reattune ourselves. So those are some of the things that were helpful.
Yeah, that's very helpful. I used the Safe and Sound protocol as well at one point, and I found that to be very easy to incorporate in, just listening to the sounds. Everybody is so uniquely different. It's great to have a lot of different modalities to help in different ways. Like sometimes we want to sit and meditate. Sometimes we want to move our body. Sometimes we need to dance or feel into the creativity. Sometimes we need the talk therapy and somebody to really talk things through, to move through those blocks. So I love that you've created your toolkit and are sharing that with other people. Ren is a very creative person, and their different contributions are always just so fun and playful. And so definitely recommend that people check them out so that they can maybe weave them into their own recovery too.
Thank you for that, Melanie.
Yeah. So I'm curious, what would you like to share about your current relationship in terms of how it provides support during CIRS recovery? And what are you working through, or how does chronic illness seem to impact conflict growth in that sense?
Yeah, I'm really excited for this part. I
Give
the
people some hope. Give people some hope.
So I think I want to answer this in two parts. The first part about how does my relationship provide support during CIRS recovery. And I first want to just say that this this is a love that has been trying to be ignited for decades. I want to gush first for a minute. I said we are celebrating our 1 year anniversary pretty soon. We realized at different points throughout the last year, as we've been learning to love each other deliberately, that we've actually been placed in all of these different parts of the country at the same time together. We're tracing back through our entire history, back to the hospital we were born in. We were born in the same hospital
Wow.
here on the East Coast. And like I said before, we knew right away when we started talking that this was going to be something special. And it is special because my partner provides support during CIRS recovery, and also because she sees me as an entire person as well, right? Like we were talking about. And I want to highlight some of the things. I actually made a post about this on Instagram. It was the top 9 sexiest CIRS related things my partner has said to me this
Oh,
past
I
year.
love this. Yeah, please share this. This is great. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it might just sum it all up because I could talk for hours and I know we don't have hours. So
Yeah, this is really good.
So number one, these are things my partner has said to me. So she said, "Is there anything else that feels important to tell me about CIRS?" This was in the first message they ever sent me on a dating app. To the point, it tells me this is important. It's not like oh my gosh, CIRS, that's scary. It's like, hey, I want to know more about this thing that impacts your life. The second thing is I'm doing my own research so it doesn't all fall on you. Oh
Yes.
my
Amen.
Oh my gosh, I was like, okay, dream come true. This is good. And this is actually, they said this right before they purchased a copy of Mold Illness, Surviving and Thriving, which is a really great manual. I think you can find it on the Surviving Mold website, maybe some other places too. I was like, okay, yep. And this is one of my favorites, the next one. She will say, "I'm going to go pool boy now." And
Ooh,
what this means
this
is
is really
after someone has used the shower, I have a very rigorous protocol of squeegeeing down and doing some microfibers. And I actually have jets in my tub. And so there's like some cleaning out and vinegar and stuff. And so when they say I'm going to go pool boy, they're sitting there with a squeegee in the hand, ready to do this because they know I do this every single day. And it's
yeah.
of service, an act of love, right?
Act of service for sure.
Yeah, love languages. And then the next one is, would you like help searching for a new doctor? So that told me, like, you see what I go through trying to find a doctor. Mine unexpectedly left the practice right after prescribing me BIP several months ago. And she was like, hey, I'm here. Would you like help? Great. This one I love. I think folks with CIRS might understand mold brain or moldy brain, where we're just word finding. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, oh, yeah, it's this structure with legs and a flat surface, and sometimes you eat on it. And my partner's like, is table the word you're searching for? And so that's, I think, a really sweet way of not shaming me for word searching and just recognizing that it's difficult. It's difficult to search for words sometimes. And then the next one, there's just a few more. So is I just got broccoli today because most of the greens at the store were moldy.
So good.
Attention to detail.
Yeah. This illness is such a detail-oriented illness. You get through it and overcome it through the details. So to know someone's also paying attention to that is a huge relief. That's awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah. And they're a farmer, so most of the time I know exactly where the food's coming from in the winter, but in the rare occasion when she has to go to the grocery or in the summer, I know where the food's coming from. But on the rare occasion when she's got to go to the grocery store, she's
Yeah.
gonna expect it, you know? This next one you might appreciate, Melanie, is I just watched the grief panel at the CIRS Summit, which you were a part of. And
Yeah.
this one was so important. I like almost wanted to cry because I mean, you know, I know how much grief can come up in the CIRS process. And I consider myself somewhat of a grief alchemist. And so grief finds me and I transmute it and all that. And for my partner to not only attend the CIRS Summit, but to specifically pick this panel on grief is a way of saying I see you in a way that not many other people have been able to say.
Absolutely.
And then the next ones are just sweet. You are magic. We are magic. I believe you and I love you.
I love all of those. That is a script that everyone should go to Ren's Instagram page, which we'll share later, and take pictures, tag it, send it to partner, future partner, and spread the word because that is a love language in itself. All of those things are a CIRS love language. They're great.
Absolutely. I love it. CIRS love language. Let's start that.
Yes. Let's make the public service announcement and get it out there. It'll make everyone's life a lot easier. I've really enjoyed hearing all about this and thank you for sharing all of it. What advice would you give CIRS folks who want to start dating that are just thinking about maybe I can do this? What would be maybe the biggest thing that you would say to them?
So I would say lean into yourself, into community, friends, family, creative outlets, whatever it is, and just do it. Get out there and date. When you're ready, listen to your body's intuition. Don't overthink it. Be real and upfront and honest and direct, especially in your dating profile, if that's your style of dating. Like we said, it'll help weed out the ones that aren't meant for you and bring forth the ones who are, friendship or otherwise. Be true to yourself and remember that you are always your own safe haven. You are always home with yourself first. And anyone else who journeys with you is an added, sometimes super cute and super sexy bonus. Know that you are whole if you remain single the rest of your life, and you are whole if you are partnered the rest of your life. Keep doing you. The ones who are meant to journey with you will be attracted to you just as you are.
Beautiful, beautiful. Couple questions that I like to ask people when they come on just to get their feedback about the CIRS community and experience in general before we finish things up. What do you want the world to know about CIRS?
What I want folks to know about CIRS is that biotoxins impact more than just people with CIRS. That mold is not healthy for anybody, even those of you whose bodies can properly process biotoxins, and that those of us with CIRS just happen to be the canaries. So pay attention to us.
And if you could have one magic wish granted, what would you ask for to happen within the CIRS community specifically?
I want us to all live in community together. I really do. And of course, if that can't happen, or in addition to that happening, just that we all have the support and means to get our physical, emotional, social, spiritual needs met, that we're able to have full and thriving lives.
Hear, hear. That's a beautiful sentiment. Thank you so much for the work that you're doing and the playfulness and creativity you're bringing into the CIRS community. It's so appreciated. And love for you to share your Instagram and ways people can stay in touch with you and your work.
So my Instagram is at chronically_healing_dirt. And the best way to stay in touch with me is go to the Instagram because my link tree is located there and it has a load of different ways you can come on into our community, surrender to community, be a part of CIRS Community Connections publications, receive spiritual or life coaching with me. All of those things will be in my link tree.
We look forward to hearing more about all the other offerings as they unfold with forest therapy. And thanks so much for being here today.
You're welcome. Thank you for inviting me, Melanie.
Thank you for listening and for your kind attention. To keep in touch, follow the Heart of CIRS podcast on Instagram. You can visit melaniepensack.com/The Heart of CIRS to donate. Your generosity helps to keep this podcast growing. May the awareness of CIRS spread far and wide, helping to change millions of lives for the better.